This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, Bluetooth 5, 7.1 surround plus, extra features like dual mics, ultra-low latency, all into their headsets. So you can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. They've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC, plus they won't break the bank. To learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions that are going on, you can go to f5live.tv/exa. I will tell you that I have got, over at Strike, I have got headsets and mice from them, and I am very happy with that purchase. They really are great headsets for way cheaper than they should be. Anyway, let's talk about some other gaming stuff going on. We know that retro gaming consoles have been really popular the last couple of years. The NES Mini came out, the NES Mini, the Genesis Mini 1, and shortly we will be seeing the Genesis Mini 2. When it was announced, I think in February, they told 17 of the 60 titles, I believe, that will be on the console. This week we got a full list, and in that list are a couple of interesting revelations, including 2 games that have never existed before. These are legitimate Genesis-era games that were developed in the Genesis era. The second one having been developed in 92 and never released for whatever reason, and are coming to this console. They will be included on this console. The first is, I think it's going to be pronounced Devi and Pi, Devi and Pii. I don't know. I'm going to guess it's not Devi and P. I'm hoping. But it's a game from the developer of Sonic 3 that is a very different game than Sonic and 3. From what I understand, it's a paddle style game. It actually sounds like one of the games from it's gone. The Fall Guys. It sounds like one of the games from Fall Guys. And you're trying to juggle angels and bounce off demons or something like that. It doesn't sound like the world's biggest game, but it is interesting to see something so different from the developer of Sonic. And then there's a title called Star Mobile, or maybe Star Mobile. I'm guessing it's Star Mobile. Because it's from a studio called Mindware. The game was completed in 92, never came out. Heavy focus on puzzles, which for me, a lot of potential. It sounds a lot like Topple, the board game, the tabletop game. You're stacking stars on a balanced, maybe mobile. Might be, so I might have been wrong. So that sounds interesting. I think everybody knows I'm a big puzzle game fan. So that sounds like it could be interesting. And then we've got a whole bunch of games that used to be arcade exclusives that will be on this as well, which is another interesting move. Fantasy Zone, Space Harrier, and Space Harrier 2. In fairness, the sequel was available on console, but the original wasn't. A game called Spatter, Super Locomotive. I'm going to tell you, Super Locomotive sounds tedious. It's all about switching track switches to avoid crashes. And then VS Puyo Puyo Sun, which is the third entry in a franchise in which you match colors. Again, console, originally they were arcade exclusives that are now coming to console. It's really an interesting an interesting move, and we've been seeing that with titles that didn't really exist before. I think the last one even had one title that was never released, or maybe it was the SNES. There's been so many of these at this point, right, that I don't remember which one's which, but there was another one of these that also had a game that was never released. It's a really interesting move to bring unreleased games into the marketplace 30 years later.
So it makes you wonder why they weren't released in the first place,
Sure.
and how many other great and how many other interesting games are sitting on the cutting room floor somewhere. Was it a
True.
legal issue? Was it incomplete and they had to complete it in some way
Right.
to get it to be usable? Did the studio that made it go bankrupt?
That was what I
Uh,
was wondering. That one in particular. I was wondering if there were like bankruptcies or something involved.
right? Like why, But it's amazing some of the things that are on the cutting room floor, and makes you wonder what other games haven't come out that would have been interesting if they did come out, could still
Yeah.
come out. Like how many things are sort of, I don't know. Just makes me think like this weekend my 3-year old got, for some reason, got really into wanting me to play her. She always wants me to really play her music videos, but
Uh-huh.
she's gotten really into, decided she wants to watch the Thriller music video over and over again. And
Okay.
like when like the zombie parts come on, which is a lot of the parts, she'll like hide under a blanket or something. But still, she's like, why do you want to watch it then? She's like, oh, it's scary, but I really like it. And you
Aw.
think about it, right? Like I was looking it up for her, and did you know that there's like a whole part of the Thriller song that is on the cutting room floor, like
Really?
that was never used. So like that whole like Vincent Price rap, like it was like twice as long, and they cut half of it for I'm not
Oh.
sure why. So like there's just a lot of interesting stuff that's like, how much stuff do you see in games and movies elsewhere that sort of,
Yeah.
you know, that never came out or was left on the cutting room floor. I'm always a huge fan of like, oh, was there a deleted scene to this? Was there an alternate whatever?
Uh-huh.
Because and sometimes you're like, oh, they were right. They shouldn't have used this. But then other times you're like, most people wouldn't have liked this, but I'm kind of glad for the extra content.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it will be interesting to see whether these are games that people will agree should have been on the cutting room floor,
Right.
or they will say, hey, this was actually like good thing, we get to play this now.
Right.
Makes you wonder what else is stuck. What else,
Right.
what other games haven't you have never been released that you haven't seen, or what other features of games haven't you seen?
Right. Yeah, for sure. And some of these games, like the ones from the arcade, some of them are going to have new features. One of them in particular, because obviously arcade games are made to be difficult, because they, especially from that era, because they wanted you to pump quarters in, right? And so
Yep.
the developers that did the port on one of these games have created a easy mode versus the arcade mode, which is more like a standard game mode than a pump quarters into an arcade machine, which I think is a really interesting move. That is part of the port. They're literally adding a game mode. There's one, I don't remember which one. One of them is literally changing the way the graphics work. Because there was a problem with the game, and so it choked. And so they're completely changing the way the sprite engine works, because it's going to make the gameplay more smooth and less kind of chaotic. So they're not just like throwing an emulator on a Raspberry Pi and taking the ROM and giving it to you, which they could do, and people would be very happy with it. But in this case, that's not what they're doing. They're legitimately doing ports of the games, adding new features, fixing graphical issues from old games. I think that's a really interesting thing. Now there's the conversation about, do we want retro games left intact with exploits and bugs and everything, or do we want 30 plus years later there to be some fixes? That conversation can happen. But I do think it's interesting that several of these games are getting new modes and fixing problems, and it's a really interesting move. They're not just, here are some games, right? It's the difference between spending this much money, and I don't remember what the retail price on this thing is, but I think the last one was like $79 and $99, so I expect it to be up there. It's the difference between the $19 Wish thing, right, or the Soldier Boy console, which was just a Wish console with his name on it, where they just take it, they don't even test the games, they just put a bunch of ROMs on a thing and send it to you. And does it work? I don't care. They're going to a lot of trouble on this. But in the full list of games, there are some ones that I'm excited about. I'm a big fan of Toe Jam and Earl, and we're getting the second one released on this console, so I'm pretty excited about that. Super Street Fighter 2 New Challengers is going to be on here. What was the other? Clay Fighter, which ironically I have for the original Genesis. I think I have 2 or 3 copies of it. Earthworm Jim 2, but the one that I think is going to get people the most excited is coming from the Sega CD, because it's Echo the Dolphin. That was a game that did not get, in its time, did not get the love that it deserved, and it's going to be on here. So I'm really excited about that. I want one of these pretty badly. I'm looking forward to pre-orders opening up. I don't have any of the other retro games, the other retro consoles. I'm going to put it out there because I've got the actual ones. But this one's actually making me think pretty seriously about it. I know you're a fan of retro games.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was not a big Genesis player, so these games aren't super familiar to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's great that they're coming, that there's more opportunities for folks to enjoy these games and to try like a couple of new games that they've never tried before.
Yeah.
So, uh, so that's really cool.
I'm not going to lie. I wasn't aware that Populous had been available for the console. I was a big fan of that game, and I'm a little shocked to find out there was a console version of it. Maybe I wouldn't have been in the time. Maybe I knew it then. But that's going to be on here too, which, I mean, you can play today on your PC if you're a Game Pass subscriber or an EA
Yeah.
Play? Is that their subscription service? It's available from them right now, but I'm gonna play that one on a console. I want to try that. that's a mouse game. That seems chaotic to me, but I look forward to it. If I get to put my hands on him, because limited number coming to the United States, fingers crossed I can get one. We'll definitely have videos coming from it. And I suspect that Alante and I will likely do Twitch streams with it, because that's going to be fun. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course hit the notification bell, because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.